Somebody says, how could you be so selfish? You're only thinking about yourself.
Yes.
What you learn to hear is that inside the heart of that person, beneath the accusation, beneath the judgment, is a longing to be considered, to be taken into account.
And you've done a lot of very interesting things, and we're going to cover a lot of those. But currently, you're heading up the Heartful Communication initiative, which I think is very important. And can you tell us a bit about what that is?
How to put this in a short form? Well, it's certainly a way of being. Although we call Heartful Communication, it's a lot more than communication. So I would describe it as a different way of being in the world, where at each moment we are attempting to be in tune with our own hearts and the hearts of other people. So it's not a clever set of techniques, you might say. It involves quite a profound shift of consciousness. And how to describe what that shift is about is tricky. But I would say it's about realizing that the quality of connection in any interaction, any relationship, matters much more than any intended outcome. So there's a very strong focus on how we can keep in connection with our own hearts. And because this is heartful communication, it's like, how can you retain a meditative condition, you might say? How can you take the condition from your meditation into all your interactions in the world? And if you can have a quality of mutual understanding, then there's the best possibility that people's needs can be met, both yours and the other person's. So, a lot of, I'd say a lot of conversation, a lot of interaction is often about trying to prove points or trying to get a certain agenda accomplished, which has its place. And it's often at the expense of a warm, mutually respectful relationship, it seems to me. So that so if our focus is, the intention is to be in connection, so that what matters to me and what matters to you has an opportunity both to flourish. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, it sounds like it's much more all-encompassing than just communication. It sounds, when you say it like that, it almost sounds like what we call constant remembrance, retaining the condition that we get in our hearts during meditation, and finding a way to put it into practice in the context of a relationship.
Yes. So, and there are for sure tools, and ways that we support people to how to listen at a very deep level, how to really listen with empathy to understand somebody else. And to that we owe a lot to Marshall Rosenberg, who is the originator of Nonviolent Communication, NVC. So when this whole initiative was started by Darji here, he first asked me to teach nonviolent communication, because I'm a trainer in that approach. But very rapidly, it was integrated with the teachings and practices of heartfulness. So it became Heartful Communication. So it's actually a blend. Darji said that, what did he say? Nonviolent communication and heartfulness go hand in glove, because they're both heart-centered approaches, both spiritual in their approach, recognizing that the deep humanity that is within each of us, that's what we're trying to express from, to listen from, and to recognize in the other person. So actually, it's a wonderful thing to be involved with, because people report what they find to be very exciting changes in their lives. And you get emails or people saying, I can understand my mother-in-law.
Yes.
Or, that very difficult relationship I've had with my boss or my colleague, I found a way now to really understand why he or she says what they say, why they do what they do. And this is the consciousness that says underneath all actions and words, somebody is attempting to meet a human need. So, I mean, what would be a simple example? If somebody says, how could you be so selfish? You're only thinking about yourself.
Yes.
What you learn to hear is that inside the heart of that person, beneath the accusation, beneath the judgment, is a longing to be considered, to be taken into account, or to be supported. Do you see?
Yeah.
Like you hear that there's a need in there. So when we learn to, it's like you sense into the motivator. What is motivating somebody to say what they do, say what they say, and to do what they do? It brings a level of compassion.
Yes.
That's the thing. It's like you realize that here's a human being who is subject to their conditioning, their education, which has taught them to be judgmental. They've learned win, lose, better, worse, normal, abnormal, right, wrong, black, white. It's a conditioning throughout our education, our media, school, everything, So that to undo that takes takes a lifetime.
Because it's a huge thing, isn't it? Because you're learning to be compassionate. You're learning to be detached from. I'm learning to be detached from how I experience a conversation, how I experience a situation, and I'm focusing and tuning in more to how the other person is experiencing it. It's a huge change, isn't it? It's a huge shift in how we think and how we are.
Yes, I guess I experience it more as a returning, actually, to who we are in our true nature. That when you said you're learning compassion, I experience that differently, which is that I'm really sure that human beings in their core nature are compassionate, and that we prefer to be in harmony with other human beings. We prefer it, and yet we've been, educated or conditioned out of that. So it's more like a remembering.
Yes,
I would say.
Yes,
of who we really are, and so this approach of heartful communication supports people. I think that's why it's so nourishing for people to embark on the journey of heartful communication, because it's like saying, "Oh yes,
yes."
Somebody said, "Oh, what did she say? I've always known how I wanted to live my life, and now I have the means to do it."
That's beautiful. Yeah.
I mean, that is really something when somebody says that.
Yes.
So it's very, very rewarding, very nourishing.
And it's so interesting, isn't it? Because we're rediscovering this part of ourselves that's about focusing on other people and having compassion for other people. And through that, we're getting fulfillment and reward ourselves through that process.
Yes, for sure. It's heartwarming.
Yes.
It is.